Alright, we are continuing on with Frankenstein Week. This is part 4 of 7. If you haven't seen the first 3, I recommend going and checking that out if you don't know what this is all about. But we are comparing different film adaptations of Frankenstein. Today we are talking about I, Frankenstein, released in 2014. Now, I knew nothing about this movie before choosing it for this project. If I did, I probably would not have chosen it for this project. And if you've seen this movie, you probably know why. Because it's really not an adaptation of the Frankenstein story. I knew it was going to be like a different take, a more modern take. Obviously, you've got Aaron Eckhart playing the creature. Not an ugly dude. Just didn't realize how different it was going to be. So, we're going to be a little bit lenient when comparing it to the book because most of this movie takes place after that story, and it's just hard to know, because we don't see the events in the film, if it would have been similar to the book, if it would have been very different. So we're going to do the best we can. So, starting out, the scientist, Victor Frankenstein, only seen in a flashback, and at the very, very beginning of this movie, barely in it at all. He is named Victor. We don't know his motives. We don't know what environment he worked in. We don't know how he got the materials. Don't know how he did the procedure. What we do know is that he went mad, which is not how the book went. We know that he regretted his creation, which is how the book went. And we know that he died from exhaustion in the Arctic. Not that much is accurate to the book, but in the book, he's out on a ship in a frozen sea, and in the movie, he's in... Well, he's in a cemetery, but maybe Frankenstein, or maybe the creature brought him back there. I don't remember. So, being very lenient, we're giving this movie a 2 out of 10 with accuracy to the scientist. Mostly because a lot of that stuff we just don't know, so I'm not going to give it points if I don't know. Moving on to the creature. I've been saying in every video, the creature appears very early in the book, only 16% of the way through. This movie has the creature almost right away, but the first time we get a good look at him is 3 minutes in to this 92-minute movie, which is about 3% of the way through. So we get the creature early in this movie. We don't really know what Victor's intentions were him for. We don't know any specifics about the brain, which is accurate to the book. He's just flesh-colored, which I went into detail about in Mary Shelley's version, where the book describes it as yellowish, but I assume that means just an off-colored flesh color. The movie does specify that he was brought back with eels, which is not specified in the book. We do not get any electrodes. We don't really know how the first encounter between the scientist and the creature went. It seems like he does have enhanced strength and maybe speed, but it's hard to tell because he doesn't interact with that many humans. He doesn't fight humans, so it's hard to know for sure. We don't know a lot about his early life. He does learn to read, write, and speak like he does in the book, so that is something there. We know he at least killed Elizabeth, which is accurate to the book. We don't know if he killed any other members of Victor's life, but we at least know that he killed the wife. We know that he wants a wife. We don't know if he requested that of Victor like he did in the book, but that is a desire that he expresses throughout the movie. And in the book, it seems like he's still surviving at the end of that story, and obviously he does in this version because it continues into the modern day. So the creature, this gets a 7 out of 18 points in terms of accuracy to the book. Now to the supporting cast. We don't know if Victor had an assistant. We don't know if his father was a baron. We do know that Elizabeth was his wife. We don't know if she was also his cousin and or sister or not. We don't know the rest of his family, any staff that he had around, his friends, his professors. We don't know early encounters that the creature had with people. And we don't know any other victims other than Elizabeth. We also don't know if Victor told his story to anyone like he did in the book. So supporting cast, this gets a 1 out of 11 for Elizabeth. And setting, again, we don't know where the procedure took place. We don't know how long the original event from Victor's decision to do this, through the creation of the body, through the animation of the body, through his death. We don't know how long that took. But technically, that story is told by the creature. So, very generously giving the setting category a 0.5 out of 3. So, if you add all of that up, we get a 10.5 out of 42, which isn't that off from some of the other versions. It's actually better than the British version did. But I'm being very generous with that. Moving on to the iconography, we have a scientist that brings the dead back to life. And we do, during that flashback, see the scientist yell that "It's alive" line that a lot of people think of when they think of Frankenstein. Not much else going on there. Let's talk about originality, because this movie, it's an original take on Frankenstein, I'll give it that. We've got demons, we've got gargoyles, we have a name for the creature. They name him Adam. Now in the book, the creature references Adam a couple different times, and he kind of implies that either he should have been called Adam or he thinks of himself like Adam. So it makes, you know, there's precedent for that. But he's never actually named Adam in the book. We have a purpose for the creature in this film that he discusses back and forth with the gargoyles. And we are combining, in my opinion, elements of Frankenstein with Hunchback of Notre Dame and or Phantom of the Opera and Underworld, because oh my goodness, does this movie want to be Underworld. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in just a bit. But we've got 10.5 plus 2 for the iconography plus 5 for originality, which is 17.5 overall, which is the lowest score on here. Just update my numbers here. That's not what I meant to do. So we've got 10.5 accuracy to the book, 2 in the iconography, and 5 in the originality, for a total score of 17.5. So the lowest ranking one, but I would say the most different. If you're looking for a different Frankenstein story, this might be a good one for you. So, I mentioned before, this movie really wants to be Underworld. And it's basically Underworld with demons and gargoyles instead of vampires and lichens. And Frankenstein instead of Michael being a hybrid between the two races. And this movie wants to be Underworld so bad, not only does it say, "From the producers of Underworld," on the cover of the DVD, but they got Bill Nighy and the actor who plays Reyes in Underworld, whose name I don't remember. I know he worked on the script for the first Underworld. I don't know if he worked on the script for this movie or not, but he's in the movie. And they wanted to cross over with Underworld. And I'm just like, why then would you put those two actors, who are a huge part of the Underworld movies, in your movie? That's going to make crossovers very strange and awkward. So maybe it was like they wanted to. I don't know. I don't know how to. This movie's weird. I don't want to just say that it's bad. I mean, it's not good. And a lot of the CGI is really, really wonky. But it is interesting. And I don't know of any other than Hunchback of Notre Dame, I don't know of any other movie that's got gargoyles as characters. And this makes me want to... I don't know if I ever watched the Gargoyles cartoon as a kid. I don't remember anything about it if I did. But, like, in this movie, gargoyles are, like, servants of angels. They're basically angels. I don't know why they didn't just make them angels. They're fighting demons on behalf of God and heaven. And they say that they were like either created by or led by is it Michael? One of the archangels, one of the big archangels. I don't remember which one. Anyway, it's almost like Supernatural in its later seasons when I stopped watching, because instead of being new creatures all the time, it was angels and demons all the time. Except instead of angels, it's gargoyles, but they still got the wings. So it's not good, and it doesn't look great, but it's different. And to me, it was interesting. And so if that's enough for you, maybe check this one out. But it makes me curious if gargoyles are a religious thing, and I've just never known that because I've never seen that depicted anywhere, or if that was totally made up for this movie. I'm like, there are gargoyles on Notre Dame, on whatever you want to call that church. But it's just, I don't know. I've never put much thought into it, and even after watching this movie, I wasn't really that motivated to research it. But it's in the back of my head now. Like, is that a thing? Are gargoyles a thing? Are there lore? Is there a mythology about gargoyles? So if you think gargoyles are cool, maybe you're who this movie's for. Then my only other note is that it jumps forward to the quote-unquote modern day. There's no real reason for that. And it's not necessary for the story. So all it's going to do is date this movie. Which I guess you could say about Underworld also. But at least in Underworld, they're using like firearms and current weapons. And the fact that the elders are leapfrogging through time, as they call it, and they have to, like, there's a ceremony for understanding what's happened while they were asleep. Like, it's not a huge part of the plot, but it would be a different movie if it took place at a different time, which is what Rise of the Lycans was. But here, he uses clubs, and other gargoyles use swords and axes, and I don't remember if the demons use guns. I don't think they do, though. I think they just use demon powers. So it doesn't need to be in the modern day. I don't remember this movie very clearly. So I don't think there's anything that's going to really, really stick out and make it seem outdated. I guess, I don't know. Because there's a lot of stuff in like a medical facility. But I feel like the layperson doesn't really know what a high-tech medical facility looks like. I feel like if somebody made a movie 30 years ago with a high-tech medical facility, it wouldn't look that different from what we would think of it now. So, I don't think that's a huge point against it. It's just like, why? They could have just as easily set this movie right after the death of Victor Frankenstein, and it really wouldn't have made a difference. But that is I, Frankenstein for you. I really thought Frankenweenie was going to be the weird one of this bunch. Or maybe Abbott and Costello. But this is the odd one out. But I'm again, it wasn't good. I don't even really want to say that I liked it, but I'm glad that I watched it, and I'm glad that I know it exists. And maybe someday, when I have more free time, I will look into gargoyle lore, if there is such a thing. But those are my thoughts on I, Frankenstein. Let me know if you have any thoughts about it, but that's all that I have. Thank you for watching, and have a good day. Hey everybody, Sam Tom here. Just wanted to let you know that I have 2 channels. If you're watching my music content, I also have a movie channel where I talk about movies and TV shows. If you're watching my movie content, I have a music channel where I do song covers, instrument demos, things like that. So feel free to check that out. Obviously, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that YouTube stuff. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good day.